Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the mayor of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and he wants to be our governor. And friend of the Steve Shannon Morning Show, Walt Maddox. Hello, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
I tell you what, I'm living the dream. Living the dream.
It's like you know what it's like to be like a country music or a rock star with that tour bus tour going on, don't you?
You know what? It's so cool when we go stop somewhere. People want to get on and take a tour of it. It's almost as if people, you know, they want to live out that dream of being that rock star or country music star. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it.
For the record, do you have any groupies?
No, not yet.
Okay, good. You know, you're
only dare to dream. I say dare to dream, man. Dare to dream.
Dare to dream. That's exactly right. We asked Walt Maddox to come on today with 5 questions that he'd like to ask our governor, Kay Ivey. That's difficult, though, because the governor won't debate you. She just keeps coming up with reasons not to debate you. I have a surprise for you this morning, Walt Maddox. We have our governor on the phone, and she's going to listen to our conversation, and we've invited her to jump in if at any point she wants to jump in, okay?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Good morning to you, Walt. My pleasure. As always, my pleasure.
Good morning, Governor.
Thank you very much. So she'll be jumping in if she wants to respond to anything you want to ask her or anything along the way. Let's begin with 5 things you'd like to ask Governor Ivey. Let's take them one by one, Walt. Go ahead.
All right. Any good debate, you start out soft and you work towards harder questions. So, Governor, my first question for you is, which song best describes you? Stars Fell on Alabama or Sweet Home Alabama?
No, she's not going to take that one. She's not going there. It's a great, it's a great question.
She prefers harder questions. Let me go with number 2.
Okay.
What happened to Wanda's desk?
Wait a minute. I understand she has a response.
Roll, Tide, roll. That tour is something else, isn't it?
This is going to go in the archives as a classic. What else? What else, Walt Maddox, would you like to ask Kay Ivey?
What is the best way to shuck a mountain oyster?
I'm really surprised. I'm really kind of surprised you didn't get an answer on that one, but you didn't. She wouldn't go there. Okay. All right. That's fine.
Okay. Since you won't debate, how about we settle this with a game of Go Fish?
No, not a word from our governor. Not a word.
All right.
Not a word.
Right. Well, my final question, and maybe this will be the one that the governor will want to respond to. Do you get the SEC channel at the mansion? I'm asking for a friend.
Roll, Tide, roll. That tour is something else, isn't
it? And those are 5 questions that Walt Maddox, and he's probably got a few more, that he would like to ask. You know what? Can I give this a shot?
Yeah.
Governor Ivey, our governor, is on the phone, and I just, a lot of people think you should debate Walt Maddox. I'm sure the mayor wants an answer. Why won't you debate Walt Maddox?
Because you always talk about the wrong things, Walt. You were in Montgomery yesterday talking about entitlements. I'm all over the state talking about jobs, so take your pick. I'll take jobs any day of the week. Plus, it's easier to say and spell.
What say you, Walt?
I think the governor's right on that point. It is easier to say and spell jobs.
All right. So he's conceded the point, Governor. Oh, God. What a campaign. We posted that you were going to be with us on Facebook, and we've got some listener questions, and I'm going to read them, if you don't mind, Walt, just like they were written. Brian says, why can't we work on every road overnight in Tuscaloosa and at the same time and get it done? Brian, and obviously he's probably thinking about Lurleen and Lurleen South. So what would you say to Brian and others?
In a perfect world, we wish we could, but unfortunately, in many of these road projects, what you don't see is stormwater, sewer, water lines that are being run sometimes 10, 15 feet underground. They're all set by gravity. All that, you've got to have a good line of sight to be able to set. And if it were that easy, certainly we wish we could. And in those cases as well, you got to let that infrastructure settle. So you got to, again, most of this is gravity fed, and so it all has to be perfectly aligned. And I know it certainly gets in everyone's way, but when it's done, I think people will be very pleased with it.
It's progress. I mean, it's growing pains.
Growing pains, yeah.
Right.
There's no easy way to go in and replace not only the road. If it were just the road, it wouldn't be this difficult. But when you're going when you're looking at 10, 15 feet digs, where you're not only putting new lines in, you got to keep the old lines active and then switch. It's not it is very complicated, very difficult, and they're doing as best they can. And the other issue is just safety. I mean, the safety of the men and women out there working on that project as well. I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating to me, but in the end, we're going to be glad because we're one of the few cities in the state that actually has road projects moving. So we're blessed.
Listener Bobby says, Walt Maddox, where is the future of the old McFarland Mall property? Is the city any closer to buying it from Stan Pate?
We've had some very good negotiations, but at this point, the needle hasn't moved. I suspect over the next couple months, you're going to see this go one way or the other. I mean, in the end, it's ultimately in the hands of the private sector, and the negotiations have been positive, but there'll be a point where we'll make our final offer, and the developer will have to determine whether to accept it or not, and ultimately he'll get to determine what will be there. And
doesn't Stan want a lot more for it than the city's willing to pay?
Well, I think by the way, that's in any negotiation on any matter. I mean, most people are going to set a price higher than what they will settle for, and so it's just part of the negotiation process. Trust me, that's not something that's just with this developer. You find this in any negotiations, whether it's in the public sector or private sector.
I've got a question for you, Walt. My 6-year-old daughter recently started her first year at Tuscaloosa Magnet School, which I'm not saying that to brag. This is a setup to the question. But I'm just
But just because she's a genius, you can't help it.
Yeah, I can't help it. But I'm so impressed.
You can't hide genius.
I really am. I'm so impressed with the program, with the staff, with the facility, everything that they're doing at Magnet School. And it's a constant joy for me, but I will admit that it makes me a little sad because I think about every child deserves that level of attention and education. And if you're elected governor, what is something that you would do to make sure that every child has access to that kind of education?
Well, one of the reasons why I'm running for governor is because of my frustration of not seeing all of our schools succeed. The state and the schools of Alabama, public schools, are under the direction of the governor, who chairs the Board of Education and presents the budget. What I'd like to see is a complete universal pre-K through our Alabama Education Lottery, and ultimately a college scholarship program that not only focuses on 4-year and 2-year, but apprenticeship programs for career technical skills. I think those two things, along with providing wraparound services at our struggling schools, where we have about 100 schools in Alabama that continually struggle, and they're not only academic deficits, but they're social deficits, mental health deficits, and health deficits that we've got to address.
Walt Maddox, listener Billy says the answer to this question tells you a lot about a person's character. Billy says, Walt Maddox, are you pro-choice or pro-life, and why?
Well, I wish it were that simple, because it's a very complicated subject that's been debated for decades. I am pro-life, but I do believe there needs to be exemptions for the health of the mother, rape, or incest.
Okay. And Dwayne writes via Facebook, Steve Shannon Morning Show, ask Walt Maddox, why are you running on a platform of pro-lottery in Alabama when the governor has no power to write laws? Aren't you targeting low-information voters?
Actually, the governor has a great deal of influence when it comes to writing laws. The governor certainly has the ability to call the legislature in session. And if the governor wasn't important, why is it the most high-profile position in state government? Leadership is what matters. It's not ultimately, it's going to be the legislature that would have to adopt the constitutional amendment, but it's going to be the governor that sets the tone. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have seen the lottery proposal that came out in 1999 under Governor Siegelman.
That's a pretty good answer. Mm-hmm. Listener Gerald, do you support the platform of the National Democrat Party?
No, I support the platform of Walt Maddox, which is to expand Medicaid in our state, which will be the biggest economic driver, and not only save our healthcare network, but the biggest economic driver in the state's history. I support the Alabama Education Lottery, and I'm going to do what I've done for 13 years, Steve, as mayor of Tuscaloosa. I woke up each morning just trying to solve problems. I don't care whether they're Democrat solutions or Republican solutions. I just tired of Alabama being 47th, 48th, 49th, and 50th in everything that matters. And what happens in Washington, D.C., quite frankly, I don't care.
Amen.
Yeah, agree. People over politics.
The elephant in the room. Elephant in the room, though. Look, when I talk to people that like you, that think you've been a great mayor, it keeps coming up. And this isn't anything you're not hearing. I know out and about on the tour. He's a Democrat. Will Alabama elect a Democrat to be governor? You obviously think the answer is yes. I want to know what you're hearing out on the streets, and I know you're looking at polling. How does the race look to you?
Oh, it's going to be tight, and our polling over the weekend shows the same thing that we're seeing across the state, is that people are tired of rhetoric. They just want to see results. Mental health is a good example of that. Yeah. We've lost nearly 1,000 beds over the last 8 years. There's no plan to move forward, and it's a crisis, and whether you're Republican or Democrat, that crisis affects you the same. And I believe in the end, you're always going to have those on both sides, in both parties, that are just going to be absolutists, and they're never going to, cross over and vote for the person instead of the party. But I think what you're seeing in Alabama, and I think you'll see across the nation, I don't think there's a blue wave. I don't necessarily believe in that, but there's a change wave that's happening. People are tired of this zero-sum politics. They want results, and that's what we're trying to deliver for this state.
And you're going to keep pushing for a debate. I know. If you were a betting man, do you think she'll agree to it?
No, I don't believe that Governor Ivey wants to debate. I think that's unfortunate. She doesn't owe me a debate, but I believe she owes people of Haleyville, which, by the way, is one of the most Republican areas of Alabama, a debate. They had to raise their taxes to keep their hospital open. She owes people of Alex City a debate. And the list goes on and on. And here's going to be the problem, is that if she does win re-election, I don't think she will, but if she does win re-election, these problems that we've been talking about are still going to be there. And then she's going to be put in a situation where it's going to be seen as she hid this from the people of Alabama. And once that happens, we'll never be able to solve these problems.
Is Governor Kay Ivey, in your opinion, a political puppet of Bob Riley and his cronies?
I don't know. Governor Ivey's been in Montgomery for 35 years, and she's been in a constitutional office for 16 years. I mean, she's been in both parties. She certainly understands how the Montgomery Beltway works, whether she's tied to the Riley administration or whether the Riley administration is tied to her. I mean, that's something that only she can answer. Well,
and we have one final comment. She's been listening to the conversation. Our governor is on the phone, and to you and to everyone listening, in the interest of equal time, she says,
"Roll Tide, roll. That Tua is something else, isn't he?"
This may be the honest interview you've ever done.
You know what? We're talking about mental health, healthcare, roads, and the future of Alabama, and you got to hand it to the governor. That's one hell of a good soundbite.
Walt Maddox, God bless you on the campaign trail, and thank you for being a friend of the show, and thank you for being on the show. We appreciate you and all that you do.
My honor. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Roll Tide. He'll remember this interview for a long time, won't
he? Yeah.
And let's be clear, we are offering equal time to Governor Kay Ivey. So just so everybody knows.
Roll Tide, roll. We got that it. Tua is something else.
We know. We know.
The Steve Shannon Morning Show. Mornings on 95.3 The Bear.